Probably one of the most common questions I get when people come to my studio is, where do you get your inspiration? The answer really depends. It depends on the mood I'm in. Sometimes I'm looking for a specific look in a face, or I'm trying to convey some sort of different type of emotion. Sometimes it comes from just nostalgia, something that I think of from my childhood, like cars. Sometimes it just comes out of nowhere. I don't really expect to see it. And that's the case with this piece. I was actually at church one day. We had just moved into a brand new building, and we were sitting towards the front, and the worship pastor, Chris, his guitar, his acoustic guitar was just sitting on a stand. And it was something about the way the lights were hitting it, with the smoke in the background. It just looked really, really cool. And I was like, that would make a beautiful, beautiful piece. So I looked all over to find a photograph of a guitar that would give that same sort of, I don't know, emotional, whatever it was that I felt that day when I was looking at that guitar, that just, wow, this is really a beautiful thing. This instrument is a beautiful thing. It's got the characters of use, and you could just see how well it was loved and played over the years. And I got lucky, and I found a really beautiful black and white photograph of a guitar, and it gave me something else that I wasn't expecting. It was actually leaning up against this old wooden door. I mean, really old door, where it actually had the old-fashioned traditional key shape lock in it. There was just something about the two pieces combined together that really struck me. I knew that this piece was going to be something different as soon as I saw that photograph. I had to find a way to bring out the textures and the wood grains and even that cool lock and make that part of the finished piece as well. It was going to be a challenge. It took a lot of time and effort trying to get the photograph just right, so that when I converted it into two colors, when I brought out the white and the black, that all that texture was still there in the end. Often when I'm creating a piece like this, I'll start digitally first. That is exactly what I did here. But a lot of times I know exactly, or very close to exactly, what the piece is going to look like when it's done before I even start transferring it to paper. I know what colors I'm going to use. I have an idea of what the background's going to look like. That was totally not the case in this one. And I tried to get what I wanted digitally, and I could never come up with something that felt like it belonged to this piece. And that's when I started thinking about a piece that I did last summer. And actually, this The process of this piece actually took over a year to create. So from the day that I actually saw that original guitar piece to the day that I handed it over to the collector who purchased it was over a year, almost a year and a half. In the meantime, I was ramping up my woodwork. I was participating in a sort of a summer marketplace where I created a bunch of different wooden pieces. And I decided to start combining some of my cut paper work with this newfound love of working with wood. And I created This Is Joy. And I took pieces of poplar wood, I cut it into strips, and I put it in the background of the piece. And I guess that sort of hung into my head because as I was working on the guitar pieces, as I was finishing cutting it, I started thinking that, I've got a wooden guitar, I've got a wooden door. It would be cool to take some of that wood that I like to work with and incorporate that into the background and make that just sort of anchor the piece. I ended up taking a walnut board and cutting it down into fairly thin strips using my bandsaw and then roughly putting them together in the background. Now I wanted to see, variations in the thickness. I wanted to see the crack. So it wasn't supposed to look like a piece of furniture. It was supposed to have character that went along with the character of the door and the guitar that was the focal points of this piece. And I'm really pleased with the way that part of it came out. The next part was the painting part. I knew that I didn't want to just start throwing crazy colors onto this piece. I wanted something that would still be warm and soothing when you looked at this piece. But yet I still wanted to keep some of my more modern techniques. I used the screens, I was spray painting, but I ended up picking 3 different colors of spray paint and working the piece using splatters and different textures and things to actually really make this piece come alive even more, but yet it was still somewhat muted and didn't distract from anything else there. This is one of those things that it gives the piece color, but when you look at it closely, you can see all the additional texture that the paint has added to the piece. This piece really grabbed people's attention in a way I never really expected. When I started on this piece, I was working from my home office, and during that time, I had actually moved over to the art lab in a very up-and-coming neighborhood in uptown Greenville. One day, I decided to try to attract more attention to the people who are going out to the breweries or the nice restaurants in the area. I took a drafting table that we had in the studio, and I taped my cutting mat to it and placed the guitar piece on it and brought it outside into the front, open up one of the big bay doors that we have there. So as people were walking back and forth, they could actually see what I was doing. And it was amazing how the outline of the guitar as it was taking form grabbed people's attention. They would come in from across the street. They would come in from a block away because they could kind of see something was going on. They really wanted to take a closer look at it. I actually had some people who expressed interest in purchasing the piece well before it was ever done. I actually sent out pictures online, and I had a collector reach out and say that they really wanted this piece. I went through the process of telling them what I planned to do with it. They said, "Great, send me the pictures when it's done." So I did that, and they agreed to buy it like right on the spot, which was wonderful. The next step was getting this piece framed. I offered to take it down to a frame shop and have it done. They had purchased one of my other pieces that had a custom frame that I designed and built. And so they really wanted me to create a frame and bring that kind of personality into the frame of it itself. Since the interior wood of the background was made of walnut, I decided to make the frame out of walnut as well.
Don't force me. Yeah, I've tried, it won't work. Yeah, it seems my heart is stubborn, like I don't know what to do with it. We live in a dictatorship, us two. When you're running fast, 'cause you got cold feet.
collector said that they liked the look of sort of a stainless steel, that brushed metal look. And I decided to incorporate aluminum and brush that. The aluminum is easy to work with. It's lightweight because this thing was going to be heavy no matter what because of all the wood that's already involved. I sent them several different iterations and they really encouraged me to put my own personality into it. Some of my previous paintings where the background incorporated geometric lines and different arrangements, sort of random looking. And I took that idea to the frame and I decided to make aluminum lines in the frame in sort of a random pattern of different lengths. And on top of that, I decided to bring a little bit more of the guitar elements into it. So I ordered little pearl dots and I inlaid those into the frame as well.
I'm faster than the wind when you're at the door. And I can't let you go. Oh, memories so sweet. Let's just find a place under the stars. And this stuff must happen. This is true. I'm not gonna lie. Oh no. Yeah, I tried this a million times. Oh no. To get this off my mind. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I feel really low. Oh no. Oh, memories so sweet. Let's just find a place under the stars. Oh, memories.
I wanted to keep the matting for it fairly simple. I was just going to use a dark gray, and they wanted even more personality, and they came up with an idea which I wasn't sure about, I'll be honest with you, but I really grew to love it. They wanted me to look up tortoiseshell pickguard material. So I ended up ordering a large piece of tortoiseshell pickguard material that would be used on a guitar just like this one. And I cut that down into small strips. I lined that around the background. I took thin pieces of it and turned it on its side so you could see that black and white layers of the material. And I added those as little accents throughout the piece as well, in the corners and where all the edges of the other tortoiseshell material met together. I used that to sort of be a border. And then I lined the entire thing with a black wooden veneer. And I use the same black wooden veneer in the sides of the frame itself. So it has a black line framing the entire piece. So pleased with how well this piece came out. It comes back down to inspiration. I had no idea that Sunday morning when I got up and went to church, that I would be sent down a year-plus long path to creating a piece that is this beautiful. And I'm looking forward to creating so many more pieces using some of the things that I've learned and the inspiration from this piece as well to continue moving on and create different pieces. If there was a downside to all this, it was probably the day that I met the collector to drop off the piece for them. One, I'm going to miss actually having the piece in-house because it has become such a part of this, either my studio or currently my workshop here over the past few months. But we were both wearing masks, and I missed out on the facial expression. I could see in his eyes he was pleased with it, and I could hear it in his voice. But something about that wearing of the mask during this whole pandemic thing that took away that little bit of pleasure that I get from seeing the look on their faces. So, but that's okay. I know he enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed this video learning about my process and this piece that took so long to get done. If you like what you saw, please share it with some friends, give it a thumbs up, and leave some comments below too. I love hearing back from people and getting their feedback. Constructive feedback is definitely appreciated. We are hopefully on the downside of this lockdown phase. Here in North Carolina where I am, we're moving into phase 2. I think phase 4 is the new normal. Until then, I still encourage everybody to wear masks when you're out, do your social distancing, do your part to help end this virus, and stay at home as much as you can. Please stay safe. I'll see you next time.